Get the space, isn't it?
It's clear.
This has been live streamed.
This is live stream. Just focus.
Right, well, I advance.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just like to advise you all that this section of our briefing today will be live streamed. And if you would all like now to stand for karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki utu, kia tawata ki tai, ehi ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huku, he ahahua, tihe, mauri ora. So we've got apologies today from Paul McMahon, Alex Hewson, Josie Ross, and Jan Johansson for lateness. I'd like to move that.
Don't need to move.
Don't need to move a second next week. Yes, okay. Moving on, we would like to welcome Mark from Waitai Coastal-Burwood-Linwood.
Thank you.
You've got a presentation for us today?
No, I haven't. I've just gonna, I'm sorry, I haven't got anything to say ground, but
Right.
it's going to go through some of the points that are raised, if that's okay, and just respond to them accordingly, and then some time at the end if you want to ask further questions.
Okay, you'd like questions at the end?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
Are you able to put the items on?
Oh,
Like
if you give me 2 seconds,
but I'll make a start. So yeah, no, thank you for the invite this afternoon. I'm Mark Pinner, basically Assistant Manager for Waitai for Canterbury West Coast. I've previously been in this forum as Road Manager for Council a few years ago, so I do know a few faces around the table. But yeah, I'm responsible for maintenance and operations across the State Highway network. So I'm happy to go through just obviously the points that were raised in a previous forum, and then at the end, yeah, by all means, we just go through any other matters of the day. I may not be able to answer them all because there's a lot of moving parts in our business, as you understand, and maybe a capital project or regulatory issue, but we'll see how we go. So I do have some responses I will formalise and send back to Cindy after this meeting. There are a few things, as I'll explain, I haven't probably got a definitive answer just because I need to get some responses from our safety engineers. And there'll be some things that are just sort of works in progress, but I'll just go top to bottom and work through. So Anzac Bridge, we don't have any plans to replace that bridge. Structurally, it is sound, it is resilient, it is seismically strong enough. There was rotation obviously through the earthquakes, but that movement has stopped. We are monitoring it and we've seen no more movement at all. We have a general inspection every 2 years and a special inspection every 6. But there's no operational need or any concerns over end of life that would warrant for us to go in there and replace it at this stage.
Are we holding it to the right?
You can ask questions. Well, I can stop. Yeah, if you want to ask questions, yeah.
Oh, no, I was just curious. Is that anyone has questions?
We know why we asked, when that would be replaced. Who asked the question?
I guess just from my perspective, was there a local concern raised as to why you wanted it or believed it would be?
that was raised by John. Okay.
I think it was relevant to the entries into the bridge, how they've shifted so far, was it?
Sorry to interrupt, Greg. No, so Anzac Bridge was on the previous Coastal Burwood Community Board's agenda. We had a site visit there and there was mention from a previous NZTA employee at the time that it may be put onto a later long-term plan schedule. But at this stage, or back then, 5 years ago, that it was in a safe, stable condition, so it wasn't a top priority. So I think the query is, has another assessment been undertaken to check the stability of the bridge? And if so, what was the outcome of that? And is there any plans in the near future for the bridge to be replaced? Because there was possible talks of 4-laning the bridge as well. Am I right, Kelly, in that?
I don't recall.
Okay. It was one of my first site visits.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, yeah, no, structurally, we recognise it as sound and no concern, immediate or longer term. We do have to say that maintenance regime, as we do for all our bridges. So, you know, we'll hopefully pick things up, we'll pick things up soon enough. I do remember back in the day, soon after the earthquakes, that there was a lot of wider discussion, as with everything, around the uncertainty of, you know, where people would be living once the red zone, etc., was moved out. And there was talk of, even at that stage, of the removing, in effect, the roundabout, and making New Barton Road beyond possibly closed. And so there was an inference that potentially, if we didn't close, or sorry, replace the whole bridge, that we may close or remove one of the spans, so it effectively became a two-lane bridge. But again, that's not been taken any further. There was some wider plans early on by Sierra involving the wetlands, and again, sort of working into that area into New Brighton. And at that stage, even a consideration of the whole alignment of State Highway moving out to the east. But again, that didn't get funding to reach a need, I guess, to actually prove that there was a case to do that.
Bridge. Yeah.
But we can come back if there's any further.
Moving on.
So on the same intersection, State Highway 24, section of New Brighton Road, poor quality crossings. Yeah, I'd agree. They are poor. They are very steep. So we don't have funding this year to do it, but we, like yourselves, are in the process of bidding for a 3-year cycle ahead of us. So for 24-27, we'll be seeking funding to do some work across cycleways, and hopefully we can attend to that. Probably as we go through it become evident, but I'm sure you're aware that in an urban area which is 70 kilometres or less, then we manage things within the road, being curb to curb. So the median crossing point would be ours, but the curb, the outside curb, would actually be council's beyond to maintain. So any work there, we just have to make sure we're talking with Steve and his team, Steve Guy, road manager, to make sure that's all coordinated.
So which is the bit you're planning for? Is it to encourage the Suffolk connections on?
So in that case specifically, it would be the median through there on the east and west side.
Right.
And probably extended themselves. Yeah.
The median strip?
Yeah, the median strip. Yeah.
Okay. So that will be safety?
So as it's an existing feature, we'll probably be doing that under maintenance.
Is there any kind of consideration of creating sort of any other safety improvements in that section?
Oh, we can consider that if they were warranted, and yeah, we understood what they were. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Is that?
Oh, I just feel like if we're going to be doing any sort of intersections and things, it'd be great to have some of the safety separate bits. So we've got sort of knowledge about the east and southern in terms of connections and so forth. So
Yeah, okay.
any opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Again, probably like yourselves, and we do provide funding yourselves in another part of the business, but yeah, we're not awash with money. But again, if we could prioritise it and there's an accident history or whatever, then we can look at that. Certainly for some of them as we go through, yeah, one of the options may be like yourselves are doing raised platforms to control speed as sort of the merging points. But yeah, each site will be uniquely looked at for what's cause and effect in it, and we'd work through how we can potentially facilitate that. With the Anzac New Brighton Road intersection, yeah, that the existing features certainly aren't working as they should in the medians. If there were wider connections that were needed, again, as we go through some of these, maybe discussed further, we just need to know if they are new connections, and if they are new connections, just how they fit into the grander schemes of sort of the walking cycling network, which I believe that Peter Rogers, your side as safety engineer, is developing. So there's a network plan for walking and cycling to make sure we are connected across our respective parts. And so it's just to understand where the gaps are, and then, you know, are we doing the right thing to fill in those gaps? And then that will also align with who actually funds it, ourselves or yourselves.
Just a one question, is he on your side?
I believe Peter Rogers is
CCC.
he's a traffic safety engineer for this ward, I believe, for council. So Anzac Pages Road flooding. We understand in discussion with your Free Water team that the new water pump will alleviate that issue. We did for our part 3 years ago, recut the drain on the eastern side of Anzac Drive. To where your beloved mayor actually connected into to take it under the road. So we do believe that once the pumping station is in effect at full capacity, the water will get away and it should work as expected.
Will they go further down Pages?
Yeah, it goes to the north and then goes under the road. The pumping station then actually goes back.
So when you go past like Bexley Reserve, will it address the flooding that's over there as well?
In Bexley Reserve itself,
No,
On the road, yeah.
yeah, on that sort of northeast corner.
Yeah, there's the corner of the left-hand turn, but then there's also the straight away. When you go straight, it gets quite a lot of.
Okay, I'll have a look at that. Okay, so on the northern side,
Southern side.
on the southern side, okay. On the eastern or the western? 'Cause I know there was an issue of
Going to the
night
bridge,
stream.
first on your right.
First on the right,
Right.
okay, I'll check
So
that.
people go behind into it. It's the worst.
Okay.
So you come through the corner and that's pretty bad, and then you just go up a little bit, and then you're right, yeah, it can get water coming across.
Yeah,
It can be a little bit hazardous. I've it once or twice, it's kind of a bit hazardous for the speed that vehicles are going.
and I must have lost sight of exactly where your Pages Road intersection or Pages Road works will tie in as well, so just need to check that out.
Take a drive there when it's been raining, you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of water there, yeah.
Can I just check that? 'Cause,
Yeah.
So the advice we've had is from Three Wood saying that we'll put in a pump station to fix that flooding. I haven't heard that before. So
Okay,
that's, yeah,
We can follow that up.
we were told that it was a Waitai issue. so
yeah,
therefore we
I'll
need to
check on
kind of,
that, that's what I was advised.
yeah, we have to close it
Make
off
sure
because we've been told it's not the council.
Whereabouts we talking here?
I'm talking about the left-hand turn as you come onto Anzac Drive. Is that the one you mean?
From Pages to Anzac.
From Pages Road is what, yeah.
Which is always
I've
been
just
the flood.
There was flooding on the northeastern
Yeah.
side as well, but the south eastern side is as bad, and you
Yeah.
need to understand how that does fit into that. The issue I was thinking of was dealt with by the, as I understood it, the pumping station northern side.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how the southeastern side does connect into the same system.
Yeah.
I don't think it is on the same pumping station network, but it may be related to either to potential works for the Pages Road improvement, realignment, or the bridge replacement.
Cindy's got something to say on this.
So just
I'll come back to
in
you.
addition to what everyone has raised, so my interpretation of the advice received so far today is that that intersection itself is NZTA asset and Pages Road will be, or parts or most of Pages Road will be remediated from that intersection to the bridge with the gateway to the Brighton
Right.
project.
Yeah.
But it's the actual intersection, so what works, if any, are planned at the four corners of the intersection to help remediate some of the flooding concerns? And will there be any safety improvements at that intersection to tie in with the gateway to New Brighton project? And again, I agree with Celeste, we haven't had the advice that when we get a new pump station, I haven't heard that.
Kind of the opposite, actually.
Yeah.
But I would say that from a flooding perspective, it's probably one of the number one issues, because it's a civil defence route out of the area.
Yeah.
So, and getting that sorted sooner rather than later would be a priority, because we're going to get more rain. as soon as climate change.
So I think definitely some conversations need to be had, bearing in mind that both sides of Pages Roads are going to be water retention designated areas.
Okay, moving on to the next one.
Right.
State Highway 74 and
Innes Road, yeah. So that is one that, yeah, our safety engineer will review, just in terms of the consideration, similar for QET Martins as well. As far as I gather, there is no known crash in history there. But yeah, if we were to look at it in terms of funding, it would have to be prioritised against other competing intersections, and a likely avenue may indeed be raised platforms to sort of provide that level of control. And I guess your concerns are obviously speed there, but also some of them sort of movement walking and cycling for schools as well. So again, that would be a factor that would be raised at
Okay.
priority.
State Highway 74 and Innes Road, it's not even in our ward, is it? That's on the other side of Marshall's Road, that's Innes.
All right, might be in this, yep, okay. Let's say on them. If it's
Yeah.
one of ours, QE2 Marshall. That's one.
Yeah,
There's a similar thing. Well, I mean, don't worry, we could take it as part of the wider network. That's fine.
yeah.
Deal with that. It's a similar issue at Q2 Marshlands as well.
Yes, yeah, I kind of get that, because I've cycled through there quite a few times. So how are you proposing to do that, just to slow the traffic on those turns? I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So I'm suggesting we'd have to review it to actually work out what the proposal was and then how we'd fund it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
But an option where you've got that merge and to reduce the speed could be a raised platform, so that you actually ensuring or trying to ensure that the vehicles are slowing down to navigate that bump in effect.
yeah,
So it just means that they're with a lower speed, there's a lower risk of actually potentially clashing with any person that is trying to cross. So
yeah,
Marston's Road is actually under signal control between the roads, but the merge is basically just open to crossing.
Mm.
So it's just how we can help do that. But the other option is another set of signals there, but I think that would probably be a little bit too much.
yeah, considering how much traffic uses that
Yeah.
intersection. Yeah, that's an issue we sort of have, particularly in Burwood, is that there are only a few roads going east, north and east. We don't have a great lattice of options. It's, you know, if you're going east, it's Preston's, QE2 Expressway, Horseshoe Lake Road, Shirley near Brighton, and then it kind of moves down to Pages, Water, yeah. But particularly in that sort of Burwood Marsland area, you know, they do take a lot of traffic.
Okay.
Yeah. It does make it a wee bit difficult because everybody converges on these certain points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
Just road to the bridge. I know, where you
That's all right. Probably on the cycleway.
go. Cycleway
Marston's to
Marston.
Burwood, yeah. So I fully understand the confusion of maintenance along this section.
Yes.
Again, it does partially come back to the speed limit along that whole road. If it's urban, the 70 or less, then that's an urban area which the council would generally maintain. And the point of maintenance would be from the outside edge of the cycleway. So all of the birds behind that and all the vegetation behind that. So there is a good understanding, I say operationally, between Neville Tucker and your vegetation crew and the maintenance side and our own contractor. We are aiming to just provide some better written instructions and drawings to actually verify that. We do have a maintenance agreement and it does describe at intersections where our respective boundaries are. But we do need that for specifics like the cycleway maintenance.
So could you explain that, Mark, through the chair? When you say the outside edge of the cycleway, so this is from Marston's Road to Burwood Road on the southern side is the cycleway. Are you saying that from the southern side of the cycleway / footpath is more council's responsibility?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you would be responsible for the other side of the footpath / cycleway towards the road.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because most of the issue is on the southern side. But I was actually down there talking to some people on the intersection of QE2 Expressway and Marshalls Road. We have some really big trees shadowing the gardens, and they were saying that our maintenance crew had been through recently and done a really good job to clear a lot of that sort of stuff out. Yeah, because I raised this with Richard
Osborne, yeah.
Right, Osborne.
Yeah, and he came back to me, but that's right, yeah.
Yeah, he said that he would
Yeah.
pass it to you. So thank you for the work that you guys did, or at least clarifying that, because there was a bit of confusion. And from what I understand, a good job has been done.
Oh, good, yeah.
So those trees, just to be clear, those trees on the Burwood, the Marshland State Highway 74 intersection are most likely to be council pruned, etc. trees, and not the problem of what we could pay really.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's really
I believe it was your own contractors that then did do that work, so yeah, I think thanks due to them, to be fair. And Neville or your vegetation team, like ours, probably only can afford 1 or 2 cuts a year.
Yes.
So it doesn't get trimmed as regularly as we'd all accept we'd probably like. That's just a function of the money we've got. Along there as well, there are certain features, again, clear behind the cycleway, the outside of the cycleway, where in terms of past development, there's, for example, a big bund, and that bund, as it's been planted out with trees, is again, unfortunately, yourselves to maintain.
Yes.
Okay,
Thanks some of the locals are maintaining them as well.
Yeah,
okay, great.
Whose responsibility is the cycleway along there?
that would be ours.
Yours? What's the process around getting some of the tree roots where it's cracked and lifted?
So I mean,
Perhaps in solve the problem, or is that just someone needs to actually let you know?
yeah, so Snap Send Solve is your system, but absolutely they do connect through to sending a request to us. So that'd probably be as good as any.
Yeah.
To get those issues to us.
Yeah, I know some people have pushed that road in wheelchairs and have actually fallen out when they've hit those before. Because it catches the casters of their wheels and tips.
Yeah.
Tips quite hard. Yeah. One of the guys I think broke his femur doing it.
Oh, goodness.
And there's
It was
a couple.
Yeah.
He was going pretty quick when the dog. It was all in one go at the wrong time, but yeah.
Was that recent?
A year and a half ago.
Wow.
There's a couple of bridges along the wooden bridges as well that are again ours on that. And
Yeah, there's
we're
a
looking
subtle
to,
difference in the height between the footpath and the bridge.
to try and improve those hopefully this year as well.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah. The State Highway 74 Burwood intersection, question raised about a lot of children going to the Waitai Primary School. So again, it's really under the safety engineer with obviously.
It had a public forum about this recently. And
Different corner. It's a different corner from.
it's a different corner. Okay. Carry on. Different corner. Carry on.
Okay. Well, if there was any feedback like that, a specific route that they particularly would be keen on ensuring it's safer than others, then that's kind of feedback that would be useful for us to review amongst those decisions. There is a signal control there already.
From what? From
Yeah.
next to the Burwood Road intersection.
Oh, yes, yeah, there's been a lot of concern about younger people getting across those intersections. Yeah, they're very busy, understandably, but quite close to the school. And there's often been quite a bit of feedback at two ends of Burwood Road, the State Highway 74 end, which is a few hundred metres from the school, and the roundabout, which is not really a Waitai issue at the far end of Burwood Road, by Burwood Hospital. And there's been a lot of concern about the safety of kids getting to school. So I'm not really sure what sort of things could be looked at, but yeah, the speed that people travel through this intersection, mostly going across down 74. That's probably the one place that needs a good looking at.
A lot of it's obviously primary school, a lot of young kids, mums or dads with prams and kids on scooters and things like that. So when you're crossing, if they don't get all the way across, there's quite often very narrow spaces for a lot of bigger items to be fitting as well. Whether that's the thing, because obviously a lot of kids when they're really young, they want to scooter to school, but they take a long time to cross the road and they might not get the full distance across.
4 wide lanes, This was a discussion 6 years ago in the community board.
Oh, was
Yeah, one of the ones is particularly is on the northeast corner next to the Lutheran church. There's a little island on that section there, which you sort of see some kids, I can't believe they're crossing it on their own, to be fair, but they do get quite tentative crossing that last little piece with a.
Yeah, not controlled by lots, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Right.
So do you feed this back to your teams on council as well? 'Cause we can discuss with, I think, Peter again, but I guess, yeah, it probably does need a coordinated approach, because we could by all means hopefully work towards getting them across 74 okay, but again, it's just beyond there, how do you connect them through to the school? I think probably, and certainly at the northern end of the roundabout, I think probably just working out what the overall picture looks like. Which you
Could possibly pay for us to get someone to have a look at all of the access going into that particular school across intersections, Yanni.
Thank you. I wonder if we could talk to the Ministry of Education as well, because it seems like they're just plonking these schools in the middle of really bad areas and not doing much transport planning when they redevelop. So I wonder if there's ways to work with the schools.
Okay, let's get our team to have a look, and they can address that with Ministry of Education, I think. Pages Road to the bridge, and is that actually covered in the rebuild of the New Brighton Bridge? That one?
It's on along.
It's on right. Okay.
It is,
Yeah.
no, it is covered elsewhere.
It's covered?
No, I don't know.
No, we're saying.
Not aware of any project.
There's two paths on each side, and does one just stop, does it, before it gets to Bridge
Yeah.
Street?
Right.
So if you're leaving Bridge Street and you're on foot, say, there's just no park.
Oh, right, I know where you are now, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So Bridge Street itself, being council road, we could play no part in terms of an extension of an existing footpath to the state highway. That's be council led entirely. In terms of then north of Bridge Street back to Pages Road, there is a gravel, pretty antiquated path of sorts that does connect sort of follows the side of the red zone. And then it sort of goes probably halfway along between Bridge Street and Pages, where it does cross over, goes, I think, through the back of one of your parks, and then does sort of follow on the west side of the state highway to Pages Road. So I believe the connection is probably sort of midway between Pages and Bridge Street on the eastern side, and just updating, improving that facility. So I guess that's again something that we could consider for our part in the next bid for maintenance and renewals across our network. Again, it'd be nice to sort of understand just where that sort of does sit in the wider network plan for walking and cycling. So maybe again, a question for Peter. We can have probably useful that I catch up with Peter at some point and actually understand where that is.
Great, thank you. So just to clarify, so when you're exiting from, do you know that street very well? If you're exiting,
Bridge Street?
yeah, if you're exiting across there, are you talking about the pathway that faces the roundabout on the right hand side? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, so
on the highway, is it drive?
so if you're coming from New Brighton out towards the state highway, on the right hand side, you pass the reserve, you go over the bridge. So the bridge has obviously got a facility to cross, pedestrian walkway on it. And then you sort of get into, at best, really a gravel path on Bridge Street, which as you go around the corner, goes into, just continues on into the gravel path along the state highway on the eastern side. And it basically goes probably 300 or 400 metres to the sort of the back end of the red zone where you cross over.
So is that council or?
I think because of the speed limit, it's ours.
Okay, so that'd be great if we could get some advice on that.
So we can certainly look at it in terms of what we needed for our part. I think it is ours to do along the state highway there, because it is not urban. It's over 70k, it's 80k, I think, still through that.
Yeah.
So we can, for us, it would be come down to funding, if we can secure the funding to upgrade that.
Yeah.
And as we do that, it would be a question of to what level would it be an asphalt surface cycleway, and would it be the full width, or would it simply be a better version of what you've got already there?
Yeah.
Probably as we're upgrading them, we've generally taken them to asphalt and shared use path 2.4 metres or whatever.
It's like just to provide some feedback, because that is another evacuations route. So, you know, we're encouraging people on the other ends, which is Paisley Road, to leave by bike if they can. And we're making provision for that, whereas this, unfortunately, the planning of the bridge, we didn't take into account that.
That's right. Yeah.
So
I'd hope that if there's evacuation like that, people go.
and that's a really significant, people are quite concerned about the emergency access, so I think that retrospectively we should be looking at that by upgrading some of the cycle connections.
Okay.
It would be quite a high priority. And now the point around that one is that roundabout. Have you had any feedback on that?
No.
Because I've seen there's been a number of recently there's been a few crashes there. Yeah. Is that something that can be looked at in terms of like, would you do a safety audit around
Is it Anzac Dies?
Anzac
Bridge Street.
guys? It must be, yeah. Just seen comments like on Facebook about people saying another crash here. And
I could get our safety engineer just to look at it to see if there is a history building. Yeah. We like ourselves we can do all kind of audits, but they do generally come across because they're an independent auditor that normally reviews them, and don't want to spend money unnecessarily, as you'd understand. They cost $3,000 or $4,000 plus each time. But yeah, no, I can mention the safety engineer just to see if there's been any change in the past history there, to see if there's a trend that's developed. In terms of the tsunami evacuation routes, maybe they'll answer now, but I guess do you know if that evacuation is south of Bridge Street towards Pyramid, or is it just inland? So is it straight over the roundabout?
I don't think we've done sufficient planning around that, but I think we'd be hitting.
Princess Road.
Yeah, whichever route you take.
I think you just go wherever you felt at the time and what you saw. But in terms of, again, a cycle connection, it's one thing to get them to the roundabout.
Yeah.
Where do they go? So there's a crossing through the roundabout, but on the western side, Council Road, there's no facility there. For our part, it's just a wide shoulder, which in all honesty, I imagine in that kind of event, we become 2 lanes of cars rather than the proper cycle lane that it is.
I've gone on Dive Road, I guess.
Dive Road, it is.
We've still got quite a few to get through if we can move along. Does that cover the tsunami evacuation?
Can I just raise one thing? I mean, it would be good to work with NZTA because also further up around Rutherford State Highway 74 through that Boston area.
We've got that further on the list.
Yeah, but I just meant in terms of the evacuation for the tsunami, that's in the evacuation zone now. So
I mean,
there's no thought to what we do. So it would be good, like when we're looking at it, just to work with NZTA.
Yeah, it would certainly be nice to know what you aim to do. And I mean, there'd be things amongst that where there are, for example, traffic lights on that junction, which you'd hope one way or another would be put on green. So again, just having that understanding to make sure again, you'd hope in that kind of event, people probably all the police would be there, waving people through. But there could be some simple things we can join up together. But they would be.
There won't be any place.
Dice Road.
So Palonaris, Ferry Road, Rutherford.
Right, we did have an assessment done on that Palonaris Ferry Rutherford intersection with the last board. Yanni, you'll remember this. They did go out and have a look at it, and they decided that there wasn't enough need for green turning arrows on that intersection. Now, we absolutely disagree, and we'd like you to have another look at that, because we know that people are having difficulty with not enough time to get enough cars around the right turns on that intersection.
It's dangerous. We just have people going through the red light, just about every cycle, people go through the red light, creating their accidents. Now, I don't know how many crashes since we last looked at it. But you also have a lot of multi-unit developments. You've got a huge amount of population moving around that Rutherford Street area as well. And yeah, it's just dangerous, basically.
Yeah.
As people are using the red light to turn,
Okay.
and there's not enough gaps in the traffic.
And do you know who reviewed it for yourselves? The present was any safety engineer, or did they go
I
to
know
independent?
it was Waitai that reviewed it.
No, what time? Okay.
So we
I
did
can
an
check
initial assessment around statistics and stuff, and then we
Yeah.
talked to Waitai.
Yeah, and no, you don't need it. And we're saying yes, we do.
And the crazy thing, it's got a pedestrian turning arrows, so it stops the traffic with a red arrow,
Mhm.
but there's no green arrow for traffic to turn right. So yeah, it's just dangerous.
We're going to do the intersection. So
Yeah, so just
And how long ago was that review done? That was.
for about 2 years. Yeah, and the only other thing is that bus priority is going through there at some stage. So
Okay.
you might, I mean, I don't know, it's sort of start thinking about that. Because unfortunately, because we're taking so long to do bus priority, Clayton have just built housing right up on that corner.
Yeah, there's a new,
So it's
development,
crazy.
two-story townhouses
We
going.
probably need to acquire some money for bus priority.
Oh, yeah, there's quite a few problems down that road. Anyway, okay. We did miss the Dyers Road off-road cycleway. We'll come back to that in a minute. We'll just carry on down Rutherford
Oh, yeah.
because we're in the same area. The Rutherford Garlands Bridge, poor alignment. You know, that bridge has been there since I was driving a delivery vehicle in the 70s. It hasn't had a lot of change there, and there's a lot more traffic going out through there now. Of course, we've got the tannery there, so we'd like a lifeline review on that bridge. How's that?
Yeah, so again, structurally, no risk there. It's a fairly short span as well. It is almost a historic bridge, but we have no plans ourselves at this stage to replace it or to alter the alignment. But there's, as we see it, no current need to change the status quo.
There has been crashes there too, like people have crashed into it. It gets sunstruck really bad, and also the lights. People don't know the lights, so I often see people going through the red light to stop.
There's just so much more traffic there. There's so much more traffic there. There's traffic coming out of the wee side streets that by the river that traffic never used to come out of because of the tannery. Lots of people stopping to turn right and turn out. It just makes it a little bit.
So we, like yourselves, are reviewing speed limits across our network, and that may be a potential site where the lowering of the speed limit may be warranted.
Okay.
With potentially, again, appropriate treatments to
Yeah.
ensure that environment's met.
It still also has a lot of truck movement down there as well. And down Rutherford and doing across.
Very commercial area behind the tannery. Yeah.
And it's cycling pedestrian access is terrible. So I wonder if we could do a club home or something, because like, yeah, honestly, like the cyclists that go around there, it's always uneven. There's always sort of debris on the thing. It's quite dangerous for the cyclists.
Okay. State Highway 76, left turn into Garlands. We'd like you to have a look at that too.
Yeah, so that one's an unfortunate consequence of trying to do the right thing, I guess. So we did get a lot of feedback about the vegetation being too high and obscure and the visibility for that merge. So we trimmed it down, and then now we're finding that people are going too fast. So again, probably a review needs to be looked at to see if, again, other options are feasible, like a raised platform seems to be the thing of the day. But
it's a hard task getting that vegetation height correct.
yeah,
As someone who's not very tall,
do need to see.
I do need to actually be able to see over the vegetation that maybe wouldn't interfere with most people. But yeah, you can have a look at that.
Just on that, like, I don't know if I don't think the Brougham Street upgrade's going to do anything, but we get a lot of kids as well that go to a part of school that cross, so they're crossing the pedestrian crossing across there as well.
Got to go on across and then across. Yeah.
Yeah,
And further up, of course, we've got Redley Street too. So
it's a shocking intersection to actually come out of. If you wanted to check to a right turn out of Redley Street at certain times of day, it's that you're taking your life.
And I guess the concern is with the Brougham Street works that people are going to wrap one through that area because that's going to be more convenient. So I don't know if we can extend the scope of Brougham Street to look at what the kind of bigger consequences, but it would certainly, from my mind, like yeah, I don't know whether you could put flowers on there, you know, colourful plantings or do something. We also own the land as well. So we've got a spare surplus land. So you could actually do something. Yeah, but I think you could do better. I mean, I think we could do better, you know, with some thought.
So how would you use a surplus land to?
Oh, you might, I mean, you might, I don't know, put in like a stop sign or something, you might make the turn.
Yeah, just change the control, so instead of give way, though, you've got to stop.
You might have to, yeah, you might just make it a stop sign, but I don't know if that would be helpful. Yeah, you might get more queuing space off roll. I mean, the other thing is the train, obviously, that's the yeah, maybe you get a better cycling pedestrian pathway through. And then crossing. I don't know.
No.
It's just, yeah. It's right. And then the only other one, sorry, it's not on here, but that Opala Road turn into Brougham Street. Like, I don't know how soon the Brougham Street works are going to do. Hopefully that works in address that. But you know where the Shell station is? The blind corner? Basically, people come.
Oh, the blind corner of power, yeah. I can't even use that. I cannot do a left turn there. I can't, seriously, it's like, I can't see through the vegetation. I avoid doing a left turn there. It's really quite difficult and dangerous. And I appreciate that not everyone's as height challenged as I am, but I don't think that's the only reason people have difficulty going through.
I think it's in the Brougham Street plan, but yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe it goes to that intersection. Enters road intersection of Power Road, yeah.
So it's not Insoles, it's
No, it's Opala and Brougham. Corner of Raycroft Street.
It's the free turn into Brougham Street. Yeah. Right where the Shell station is, or the Z station. So.
It's actually back from the Shell station. If you actually look, Raycroft Street is a little street off down the side, you'll see it. Just look that one, come down and come. Yeah. Okay, let's move back to Dyers Road and the off-road cycleway, because there's a few things on Dyers Road we want to bring up. So, Celeste, you had something you want to say on that?
I mean, really, it's just to say that I think it's a vital connection. I see people working on here all the time, taking their life into their hands. There's debris, there's you know,
There's concrete on the road, isn't there?
Yeah, I live every time I drive along there, and it is a fast road.
Yeah.
So with the coastal pathway, hopefully, you know, better cycle connections in the eastern suburbs at some point, you know, there needs to be a connection along there. And I think that would be a great addition to kind of some of the safety improvements across the city.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we don't have anything connecting the southern part of the area to the rest of the city.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Rather than, I think the comment there is, it just makes more sense because this is the road people are already using, so why not focus on that rather than planning something else? So that would be a request.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yannick, we've got Greg before you.
And so one kind of request would be, is it a way to get visibility of all the cycle networks? Like the planning with council, because I feel like part of the challenge is that we don't know what the plan is in terms of some of the cycle connections. So in terms of us prioritising what we think is you know, across the area.
Yeah, so
get some visibility around that.
So this is my understanding, I might be wrong,
Yeah.
but this is where that network plan for walking and cycling comes into its own. So council lead a walking and cycling network plan, of which our network would be part, to basically provide that sort of strategy of where those connections are.
Okay.
And then we and yourselves, etc., would prioritise obviously how they can deliver and fund that over time.
Okay. Pretty good to
So
find out.
maybe I'll have a word with Peter about that as well, just because maybe we are under a false impression that that's being done, but.
I'm aware of it,
Okay.
but planning as well.
Greg.
Yeah, so just following on Celeste's comment there about the cycleway, I think having something separated purely due to the fact it's next to the refuse station and so much stuff comes off the back of trucks, trailers and everything. Cyclists are having to dodge and weave a lot of hard rubble effectively through that space. And if something is separated out completely from it, I don't know if there's ability to go between where the side of the road is and the new fence has been put in as an ideal space. It's well away from traffic, it's behind a barrier. To me, that seems a really good spot, but yeah, there's just so much rubbish and rubble on that road, whether it's the frequency it's cleaned at, it needs to be upped as well, but yeah, a separated space is desperately needed.
Okay, sorry, Kelly. Yannick, you've got a question?
Yeah, so I think this just shows that the relationship isn't working. There's a disconnect somewhere. And so we've been trying to get something done on this for about 5 years. And like the Linwood Ave Dyers Road, I don't know if you know that where it comes around, but the vegetation's all overgrown as well. So anyone that's going up Linwood Ave and then left into Dyers Road towards Brighton, I mean, it's just a horrible place to live with cycle. So it's just kind of, there's land here, there's a green space there. So we first asked when Waka Kotahi did the skirt repairs, if we could do it, you know, part of that. And they decided to go on, but you can see like the debris that comes off the trucks and the heavy vehicles, it's constantly coming gravel, etc. And the other thing is this is kind of a weird thing, is you guys are funding us to do cycleways, but then when we asked, we're told there's no money available from you to do it. And we're like, but you're giving us money to do other cycleways that, you know, probably arguably aren't as important as this connection. And so when we did the fencing, we were trying really hard to just get enough width and do a path between the fences. But unfortunately, the wastewater team put the fences in and no one's thinking about putting the cycleway in. So it's just such a lost opportunity.
Yeah, I do show you the irony of the fact that we are funding more work on your network than we do on ourselves on State Highway. Given that is changing, I think we're recognising the need to do work across them.
So I don't know how much
network
over the surf funding, but you know, if there's spare surf funding available, redirecting some of that towards doing something here is something that we've had repeated requests through our annual plan, our LTPs, probably some deputations to community board. It's kind of a priority. So funding stuff that people are asking for that makes sense. It's probably a better use of that resource than funding things that people haven't asked for that they don't really have a strong need for, right?
Okay.
So
yeah, for our part, we do get some funding for walking and cycling. Well, a reasonable amount we've got in this NRTP. That's more for our part, probably serving a greater, I guess, strategic plan in terms of sort of the heartland rides that they want across the country, which do come through the cities.
Yeah.
But there is a gap for us and probably for you as well, that those existing facilities where they exist, albeit not adequate, don't receive perhaps the funding that they need to take them up to that
and
level.
I think that's what we funded alongside the Southern Motorway, because you guys, so even if council got funding from you to do it, but yeah, it'd just be great to try and find a way to get that as a key connection, because at the moment it's very unsafe.
Yeah, so the funding we apply, like yourselves, for would be for maintenance to keep it as it is, and there's a degree of improvement you can do, but it's fairly limited to low cost, low risk, as they call it, which is anything under $2 million, which you can upgrade it from gravel path to a wider asphalt path to potentially equally you could try a safety avenue. Obviously that's warranted. To a larger scale project, which is a capital delivery project that's along the motorway that was done. To be fair, because of the motorway, it was sort of built alongside that. Probably wouldn't have stacked up.
I think people just look at the other state highways and see the good amenities for cycling, and then they look at this one and they're like, it's really dangerous.
Yeah, and then that's a historic issue that we're trying to.
Okay, we're getting really close to time, so Celeste's one quick question, and I've got one other matter to raise.
In terms of the bridge, there's obviously is that on your radar? Does that come through you?
It comes through Waitai in terms of funding towards it for a different team.
And yeah, and in terms of progressing that is something that will be back to us around the Dyers Road one. We'll get a bit of advice on
Pages Road or the drainage.
Dyers Road, we'll get some advice back on that.
Yeah, I think I need to speak to Peter just to understand that we are on the same page about the network plan, and which is a strategy of walking and cycling across the city, and then just how in this specific area projects that you may have and any timing of when they'll be delivered, and how we may tie into that.
All right, just one last thing to bring up that's actually not on the list, but it's very important to, and it is Dyers Road. The Dyers Road, Masons Road intersection that is currently not suitable for purpose. So we've asked repeatedly to have traffic lights on that intersection. because trucks are unable to do a right turn from Masons Road into Dyers Road, and they're then going through our suburban streets down like St John Street. And I do believe we've looked at that in the past and said that it's not needed, but we would request that you have another look at that. Yanni, did you want to say anything to that one?
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. And the other thing that I think would be really good if we can get some understanding of NZTA's position is the Portland development, which has put 10,000 extra trucks into the residential area through Woodstock.
Yeah.
And I think initially when it was consented, you didn't allow access into the state highway, but even if it was just left out and left in, that might be a much better outcome. So this is the tunnel road. So I don't know if you know, there are massive amounts of industrial stuff that's happened there. And, you know, we put a cycle in along the river and we narrowed some streets and stuff, but that whole Garlands Road, Rutherford Street, Marshall, Tanner, they're not equipped to take those big heavy vehicles. So it may be a better outcome to get some access.
Off Tunnel Road itself.
Onto Tunnel Road, right? Like it's not a particularly busy stretch of road. Having the heavy vehicles that would be far more efficient than just to turn left onto the state highway. So I just wondered if we could just get at least a very high level understanding of.
Yeah, so Mike Blyleven, I think, came to one of the previous meetings. It is more in that planning, strategic space of what we do with the network going forward. But I can pass that on to Michael. Yeah, okay. I mean, Scruttons Road would be the intersection where they go onto Portals Road and into the estate there, the commercial estate. But yeah, I understand obviously all the containers that are there and more movements. But yeah, I don't know if it is feasible to construct. What would it take to construct the access into an existing network there? Because I can't remember the road, but where you've got an existing stub road, you're actually building a cycleway alongside it. And I don't know if that's feasible to actually connect to that still, and all the railways on the other side, isn't it? So
and again, I don't know what the movements are like. I don't know how much we monitor that stuff under district plan.
Good to find out what the movements are like. Because it is creating quite a disturbance to residents.
Because it's the following effect up to Harvard, Redford, Harvard.
And again going down Rutherford and
Just following on to your point before on the Masons Road intersection with Dyers Road. I've spoken to some of the businesses along here I've dealt with in the past, and they say they just avoid that intersection or turning onto Dyers Road at any stage. So that's the people, it's not just being observed by residents, it's the drivers that are driving for those companies. They said they'll quite happily go down St John Street, turn left again to get out of there. And it's all day, all hours of the day, so school times, pickups and that, they go around those school areas. So while we're trying to develop plans to make the school spaces safer, we're still adding heavy vehicles into those spaces which don't have the same ability to stop like cars in that sort of that space. So yeah, it's their habit already to go away from those areas. So without a major change, it's going to stay like it is and cause issues in the other areas.
so a visual observation wouldn't show you what the problem is because people avoid doing it. Because
But did Michael suggest that on the next MGP they put a bid through?
I think it has been suggested that we.
That doesn't commit it to being done. It just means it'll be there for consideration if possible to potentially prioritise that funding. But I'll check with them where they got to.
Okay, that does bring us to the end of the session. Actually, I would suggest if you have any other questions, that we maybe just send them through to Cindy, we can send them through.
We channel them through Cindy, if that's okay. No, provide a written response. No,
Thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you. See you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
So this is the end of the public part of our briefing, and we will no longer